Peace, cousins. You know who this is? Your cousin Papote, man. And I really got to talk to a lot of my people out there, bro. I got to speak to my Boricua community, bro. Because, they say that history is written by the victors. Like, you know what I mean? So, when we read about history or when we learn things, we always got to keep that in mind. That it's written by the victors, all right? And then we could see that there's certain things that are taken as historical fact, and basically they're not historical fact, bro. And I could give a few examples of this. And I'm speaking to a generally Puerto Rican community. Like, although, we got black community, Boricuas, we got fucking, some Spanish, we got native-minded cousins, but we a little bit more tighter with our diversity, but that doesn't mean we iron the shit out. Okay? But we're a little tighter. So when we speak, if I speak and some white person or some just African-American black with no consciousness of this conversation, you could get a little sidetracked. But us Boricuas know damn well what the fuck we talking about. So now, a good example of bad history. All right? A good example of bad history, and I want you to look up everything I say, because we can't go over. I need some team players here. I need some people that can see the historical revisions that need to be made, and that see how our people are using this bad history to make great points sometimes. But it defaults you. You know why? Because you're either right or you're wrong. And once you're wrong, you're wrong. And that's where they leave you at. They default you into being wrong. Theodore de Bry. The last name is the middle name is D-E, like de. And then the last name is B-R-Y, Bry. First name Theodore. Theodore de Bry. Theodore de Bry was an illustrator. All right, back in the 1600s. He was like a caricature person. Like, he would make these drawings, and the drawings would tell a story. Now, this gentleman, when you look him up, the first thing you're going to notice is that there's going to be a lot of fancy talk. It's going to be words used to describe him that is not familiar English to a lot of people, the general public. Maybe to an academic. But even some would have to refer to the words being used to describe Theodore de Bry. And once you read into him, do Wiki, do Google, do, PDF files, go into this person, check out his work, and where he got his work and where he got his information. And you will see that the historians themselves they know for a fact that he is not credible. He is incredible. Okay, what his job was to hear stories from these sailors that just came from the New World into the Old World, back to Europe, and to make these drawings so they could put it on whatever magazines or newspaper, which was like the fucking CNN or the Fox News of their day in Europe. And what this dude would do was he would listen to 1,000 different stories, people that were in different places in the Caribbean and elsewhere, and he would make a collage drawing. He would draw a little bit of each one and then put it down like historical fact. Then he was privileged to read works like from Bartolomeo de las Casas, and he would make drawings based on what de las Casas described. So now, once you read into Theodore de Bry, you're going to see that this dude was a bold-faced liar. And a lot of us native Boricuas, black Boricuas, we love using his images to show how Indians were tortured 13 at a time and burned at the stake, and little babies being hit up against rocks, by these Spaniards. But these are stories that are being told to you by people who have been discredited historically as already being fucking liars, bro. Alright? Bartolomeo de las Casas is a liar. Bartolomeo de las Casas had a debate. I think it was in France, okay? It's called the Valladolid debate. It was Bartolomeo de las Casas versus Sepúlveda. Now, Sepúlveda was a little bit of a white supremacist. You can see how he was a white supremacist. It was a culture supremacist because those people were already mixed. They were mixed. And they argued each other in court over the civility of the natives. Whether the natives had a soul or they didn't have a soul or blah, blah, blah. Okay? And when you hear the debates, you could actually, it's better for you to read Bartolomeo de Casas and then go and check out his debate. You will see that Bartolomeo de las Casas exaggerated. Even if it was on behalf of the natives, he still exaggerated. He exaggerated a lot. He exaggerated so much on behalf of the natives. I think it was because he had a share in the slave trade already going on from Africa to Europe, and he wanted to capitalize on that. You know what I'm saying? And the reason that he didn't want to make natives slaves was because they weren't slaves. Okay? The caciques of the island of Boriquén, they had deals with the Spaniards. A lot of the natives had deals with the Spaniards. A lot of them. Okay? There were fallouts. I'm sure there were fallouts. Okay? But I believe that a lot of those circumstances were exaggerated a lot. All right? And if you ask me the primary reason, why would they lie about that shit? Why? Because they were hiding the Jewish families that escaped persecution in Europe, that established themselves as merchants and pirates in the Caribbean, that did certain businesses with the old world, but ripped off all the crackers from the old world. So the Jews and the blacks had an enterprise against the European monarchies. That's why a lot of the pirates were either Jewish pirates or black pirates. Okay? And another interesting note will be, why is it in all these historical narratives the black slave master is kept out? The black slave master is kept out on purpose. The black slave master is not told to you in the English history or in the Spanish history. The black slave master, the mulatto slave master, is intentionally kept out of history for reasons, bro. Alright, the same way, you want to hear another bad history? Bad history is looking at American history and looking at how Europeans went from the east to the west across America. And as they're going from east to west, some of these white people found like Jewish and Egyptian named places, or the biblical text written on stone, some stonework in New Mexico, or, you know, they see all these things, and it's easy to explain that shit. It's retardedly easy to explain how a lot of those Jewish elements ended up in the New World before Europeans got here. Well, it depends on what you mean by European. Remember, you had the Spanish, French, and all these other dudes. They got here in the 1492, 1500s, 1600s area. And when you're talking about the conquest of America from east to west, you're talking about 1622 with Plymouth Rock. And then you're talking about the 13 colonies. And then you're talking about Louisiana Purchase. Right? Remember, the Spaniards and the French and the Dutch, as Jews, already made it across all those areas of the Americas. All right? Juan Ponce de Leon already set up fort in South America, in Florida. So it was actually the first town made in America by Europeans was actually, Ponce de Leon. That's the Spanish, the conquest, the colonist history. We're not talking about the Viking history. They didn't go there to colonize. You dig what I mean? But the first colonial settlement was by Ponce de Leon and not by John Smith or the 1622 settlers. You see, By the time Juan Ponce de Leon, Cortez, by the time even fucking that French dude, Napoleon, was all across the Americas, since they were crypto Jews, they were the ones leaving all those little things there, as far as like writing in stone, you know, the Ten Commandments, and leaving these Egyptian little symbologies and things all around. Okay? On top of that, they sold the natives horses. You see? Before 1492, the horse was already extinct in the Americas. There was horses, but they were bones. They was extinct. There was no horses. Live horses were brought by the Spanish colonialists. So that means in North America, when the whites encountered an Indian, chances are, an Indian with a horse, chances are that was because Spaniards traded with them. Or, you know what I mean? And the natives had guns. Some flintlock guns before the West was settled. The West was won, like the white boys call it. All right? So there's easily explainable things in history that we just don't sit back and like take these truths to account. We settle for the victor's opinion on what happened historically. That's why we get a little bit confused. To me, to say that there's black people that were slave owners, the same way there was native slave owners in the Caribbean. We know about North American slave owners, but rarely spoken about is the native Caribbean slave owners, as well as the mulatto slave owners. Why is that important? It's important to note because when you don't say things right, you give power to the lie. You give power to the false narrative. You dig what I'm saying? You know, you give power to that. I don't want to speak down on my black cousins. I can't. One of my greatest heroes, which is the father of the motherland of Puerto Rico, was Emedio Betanzas, who was raised in a slave plantation, who upon getting, you know, his liberty as far as from his parents, like, you know, growing up and moving out, he used all his resources, his intelligence, his money to free slaves in Puerto Rico and to free slaves in France. He was a mulatto that was forced to identify as white, although he had a strong attachment to his blackness. This person, Emedio Betanzas, was raised in a slave plantation, a plantation that happened to be owned by his parents. So yes, Emedio Betanzas, the father of Puerto Rican motherland, is a black man, is a mulatto, and does come from slave-owning black families. In PR, there were slave-owning black families in Haiti. There were slave-owning black families in Virginia. There were slave-owning black families in Louisiana. You know, stop letting these white boys, you know, they put their supremacy in your fucking hands. You know that? They put their supremacy in your hands, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the big as if. Like, you know? Like as if he was that fucking powerful. Please, bro. You know, the story of Ponce de Leon and the conquerors in the 1500s, 1600s alone. Think about it. You Boricua like me. You ever went to Puerto Rico? Picture us right now going to Puerto Rico in a full suit of armor, riding a horse, okay, with flintlock weapons that don't work when it's humid, okay? Now picture us going to Puerto Rico, all right, and trying to transverse those mountains in those areas on a horse or even on foot with fucking copper, tin, and metal armor on. Man, that heat of that sun, you won't even be able to touch your armor. And all the mosquitoes will chew you up. All you'll be doing is sticking sticks down every fucking hole of your armor to be scratching yourself. Okay, there's no way those people would have survived. The first few days, they would have died of exposure. Because they didn't understand the heat. They were dying from the fucking heat. So now you telling me that he fought a whole war in a suit of fucking armor? You dig what I'm saying? 300 people taking out 700,000 people? Are you fucking kidding me? There's more to the story than meets the eye. And as soon as us, as native Boricuas, as blacks, as soon as we take account for the good and the bad of our history and we stop letting this motherfucker, like, you know, allowing us to make it white supremacy. We make it white supremacy when we fall for these false narratives and not be accountable for ourselves.